11 hardy perennials that keep your October garden thriving. When most gardens turn brown and lifeless in October, yours could be bursting with color. While your neighbors watch their plants wither away, imagine walking through beds filled with purple blooms, evergreen leaves, and textures that actually get better as the weather gets colder. This isn't fantasy. It's completely possible with the right plants. I'm Sam from Seniors Gardening Advice, and in the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly which perennials transform October from the end of your gardening season into one of its most beautiful chapters. But before we get started, do me a quick favor. If you're serious about keeping your garden gorgeous all year long, hit that subscribe button right now. We share practical gardening wisdom every week that actually works for real gardeners. And if you find even one plant in this list that you want to try, leave a comment telling me which one caught your eye. I read every single comment, and your input helps me create better content for this community. Now let's get into these incredible plants.
October brings a special challenge for gardeners. The growing season is winding down, temperatures are dropping steadily, and many plants are preparing for dormancy. But here's the thing, your garden doesn't need to look sad and empty during this transition. There are perennials specifically built for these conditions, plants that don't just survive the cool weather, they actually prefer it. These are varieties that bloom their brightest, show their most vibrant foliage, or provide structural beauty precisely when everything else is shutting down. The perennials we're covering aren't delicate greenhouse plants. They're tough, reliable performers that come back stronger each year. They handle frost, resist pests, and many of them are low maintenance enough that you can plant them and mostly forget about them. Whether you're working with sunny borders, shaded woodland areas, or damp spots near water features, there's something here that will work for your specific garden conditions. What makes these plants particularly valuable is their ability to bridge seasons. They carry your garden from the last warm days of September right through October, and often into November, providing color and interest when it matters most. Some offer late-season blooms that attract the last pollinators of the year. Others provide evergreen foliage that holds strong through winter. And a few surprise you with unexpected bursts of color just when you thought the show was over.
First up is the hellebore, sometimes called the winter rose or Lenten rose. Now you might wonder where I'm starting with a plant famous for late winter blooms in a list about October. Here's why. While hellebores flower from late winter into early spring, their foliage is what makes them October superstars. These plants have thick, glossy, evergreen leaves that stay vibrant and lush when nearly everything else is fading or dying back. That deep green foliage provides crucial structure and visual weight in autumn beds. The leaves are tough and leathery, standing up to light frost without any damage. They create beautiful mounds of greenery that look intentional and designed, not accidental. This is the kind of plant that gives your October garden a "someone knows what they're doing here" appearance. The foliage forms a perfect backdrop for late-blooming flowers from other plants, and it fills space that would otherwise be bare soil or mulch. Hellebores prefer partial to full shade, making them perfect for those tricky spots under trees or on the north side of buildings where many plants struggle. They like rich, well-drained soil that holds some moisture but doesn't stay soggy. Once these plants establish their root systems, usually after the first year, they become remarkably drought-tolerant and can handle periods of dry weather without complaint. One of the best features of hellebores is how little attention they need. They're naturally deer-resistant because the foliage contains compounds that make it unpalatable to wildlife. Diseases rarely bother them. They don't need dividing frequently. A fresh layer of mulch around the base in October helps protect roots during extreme cold and keeps the plants looking their best. Position them in woodland gardens, along shaded pathways, or under deciduous trees where they'll receive dappled light. When February and March arrive, you'll be rewarded with some of the earliest flowers of the year, a bonus for your October planning.
Plant number 2, Sedum Autumn Joy, the shapeshifter. Moving into sunnier territory, Sedum Autumn Joy is one of those perennials that gives you multiple seasons of interest from a single plant.
This succulent starts its performance in late summer with flat, plate-like flower clusters in soft pink shades. But the real magic happens in October, when those flowers mature and transform into deep shades of russet, copper, bronze, and burgundy red. As October progresses and the first frosts arrive, the flowers dry into attractive seed heads that remain standing through winter. These dried heads have a sculptural quality that adds three-dimensional interest to borders that would otherwise look flat. Snow can pile on top of them, creating beautiful natural arrangements. Birds, especially finches, love picking through the seeds, which brings movement and life to your garden even in the dead of winter. Sedum Autumn Joy thrives in full sun and actually prefers poor to average soil. Rich, overly fertile soil makes the stems weak and floppy. This plant evolved to handle tough conditions, so lean, well-drained soil keeps it compact and sturdy. It's extremely drought-tolerant once established, making it perfect for those hot, dry spots where other perennials struggle. It resists pests naturally, and deer generally leave it alone. Maintenance couldn't be simpler. Leave the dried flower head standing through winter for visual interest and bird food. In early spring, just cut the old stems back to the ground before new growth appears. That's it. The plant handles everything on its own. Use Sedum Autumn Joy in mixed borders, where its changing colors complement ornamental grasses and other fall bloomers. It works beautifully in rock gardens, as edging along paths, or massed together for bold impact. This is the definition of a plant-it-and-forget-it perennial that actually earns its space.
Plant number 3, Aconitum, monkshood's bold statement. For dramatic vertical interest, Aconitum, commonly called monkshood, delivers like few other perennials can. This plant saves its best performance for October, sending up tall spires covered in hooded flowers in stunning shades of deep blue and rich violet. The flower shape is distinctive, with each bloom looking like a small helmet or hood. Against the muted browns, golds, and oranges typical of October gardens, these intense blues and purples create eye-catching contrast. Monkshood often continues blooming well into late October, sometimes pushing into early November in milder climates. It's one of the few perennials that actually peaks in autumn rather than summer. The plants are remarkably unfazed by cool temperatures and light frost, which makes the flowers last much longer than you'd expect from such vibrant blooms. Cool nights actually seem to intensify the flower colors. These plants grow best in moist, fertile soil that drains well but doesn't dry out completely. They appreciate partial sun or light shade, especially afternoon shade in warmer climates. Consistent moisture is key. They don't like drying out between waterings. In return for that care, monkshood rewards you with years of reliable growth, getting larger and more impressive with each passing season. Because monkshood can reach heights of 90 to 120 centimeters, roughly 3 to 4 feet, it belongs at the back of borders, where its vertical form creates a striking backdrop for shorter plants in front. The tall stems create layers of interest and draw the eye upward. Pair it with golden-flowered perennials, copper-toned sedums, or ornamental grasses for stunning autumn combinations. Important safety note, all parts of monkshood are toxic if ingested, so position it away from areas where children play or pets roam freely. Despite this caution, it's an invaluable addition to October gardens, providing bold color and architectural presence when most perennials have already faded.
Plant number 4. Japanese Anemones, graceful dancers. Japanese anemones bring an entirely different energy to October gardens, graceful, airy, and elegant. These perennials produce simple flowers in white or soft pink shades on tall, slender stems that sway with the slightest breeze. The blossoms seem to float above the foliage like small lanterns, creating movement and lightness in the garden. They begin flowering in late summer and continue reliably into October, offering one of the longest bloom periods of any fall perennial. The flowers have a simple beauty, typically 5 or 6 petals surrounding prominent stamens in the center. This simplicity makes them versatile partners for other plants and prevents them from overwhelming more complex flowers nearby.
The blooms glow softly in low light, making them especially beautiful during those shorter October days when sunlight becomes more precious. Japanese anemones prefer moist, well-drained soil in partial shade, though they adapt to sunnier locations if you keep them adequately watered. Once their root systems establish, be patient. This sometimes takes a full year. They spread gently by underground rhizomes, creating natural drifts of flowers that expand slowly over time. This spreading habit is manageable and rarely aggressive, so you won't find yourself battling to contain them. These plants are remarkably low maintenance. In very windy, exposed sites, the tall stems might benefit from subtle staking, but in most gardens, they stand on their own just fine. They don't require deadheading to continue blooming, and diseases rarely bother them. They're perfect for cottage gardens, where their relaxed, natural habit fits right in. They work beautifully in mixed borders, providing vertical interest without feeling stiff or formal. In shaded corners where color options are limited, Japanese anemones fill space with both flowers and attractive foliage. Their resilience to frost means they keep performing long after many other perennials have called it quits for the season.
Plant number 5, Aster Monch, the pollinator magnet. Asters are synonymous with autumn gardens, and the variety Munch stands out as one of the finest for October performance. This cultivar produces an absolute abundance of lavender-blue daisy flowers with bright golden centers that cover the plant from late September through October and sometimes into early November. The sheer quantity of blooms is impressive. When Munch is in full flower, you can barely see the foliage beneath the blanket of color. What sets this variety apart from other asters is its long bloom period, compact habit, and resistance to the powdery mildew that plagues many aster varieties. The flowers maintain their vibrancy even as nights turn cold, and cool weather actually seems to prolong the blooming period. Few perennials can match this kind of flower power so late in the season. Asters prefer full sun and well-drained soil. They appreciate consistent watering, especially during their first season while establishing roots. But once settled, they become quite hardy and resilient. For even bushier growth and more prolific blooming, cut the plants back by half in early summer, around June. This encourages branching, which means more stems and ultimately more flowers in fall. The real star quality of Aster Monch is its value to pollinators. The nectar-rich flowers attract bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects right up until the first hard frost. In October, when natural food sources are diminishing rapidly, these flowers become crucial refueling stations for pollinators preparing for winter or migration. Watching your asters buzzing with life while neighboring gardens sit quiet and empty is incredibly satisfying. Use Aster Monch in borders where you need reliable late-season color. It works wonderfully in cottage gardens, pollinator patches, and naturalized areas. The lavender blue flowers combine beautifully with ornamental grasses, golden rudbeckias, and the bronze tones of maturing sedums. These plants are naturally deer-resistant and ask for little care once established, just spring cleanup and occasional watering during extreme drought.
Plant number 6, Bergenia, the bold foliage plant. Sometimes called elephant's ears for their large, leathery leaves, Bergenia is a perennial valued primarily for its foliage rather than flowers. This plant forms substantial clumps of broad, glossy evergreen leaves that hold their structure long after other perennials have collapsed or died back completely. The leaves are thick and tough, standing up to frost and even snow without damage. As October progresses and temperatures drop, Bergenia's foliage undergoes a remarkable transformation. In response to cooler nights, the leaves shift into rich shades of red, burgundy, bronze, and purple. This cold weather color change turns the plant from a supporting player into a focal point. The dramatic autumn hues provide visual interest that many flowering plants can't match during this season. Bergenia adapts to a wide range of growing conditions, tolerating everything from partial shade to full sun. It handles various soil types as long as drainage is reasonable. While it prefers moist, well-drained ground, established plants tolerate dry periods fairly well. The plant spreads slowly through rhizomes, creating expanding clumps that provide excellent ground cover without becoming invasive or difficult to manage. Adding a layer of mulch around Bergenia in fall helps protect the root system during severe cold and keeps the clumps looking fresh and tidy as winter approaches. The plants are naturally deer-resistant and rarely bothered by pests or diseases. They ask for almost nothing once established, maybe division every 5 to 7 years if clumps become too congested. Use Bergenia along pathways where people can appreciate the foliage detail up close. It works beautifully as edging for borders, creating bold lines that hold strong from October through winter. Plant it as ground cover in areas where you want year-round interest without constant maintenance. The evergreen foliage ensures that even in the depths of winter, these spots have living structure rather than bare earth. When spring arrives, Bergenia produces clusters of pink or white flowers as a bonus, but its real value is that stunning foliage that thrives through October and beyond.
Plant number 7, Tricyrtis, the toad lily's exotic touch. For something truly unusual and exotic-looking, Tricyrtis, the toad lily, brings unexpected beauty to October shade gardens. This perennial produces intricate flowers that resemble miniature orchids, complete with speckled patterns of purple spots against white or pale backgrounds. The blooms appear on gracefully arching stems in late September and typically continue through October, providing delicate interest when most shade perennials have finished blooming. Despite their delicate appearance, toad lily flowers are surprisingly resilient to cool weather and light frost. The blooms last much longer than you'd expect from something so intricate and detailed. Up close, each flower is a work of art worth examining closely, which is why these plants work best positioned near paths or seating areas where visitors can appreciate the details. Toad lilies thrive in partial to full shade with consistently moist, humus-rich soil. They're perfect for woodland settings where other flowering plants might struggle to perform well. These plants appreciate regular watering during dry spells, as they don't tolerate drought well. Think of them as woodland natives that prefer the cool, moist conditions found on forest floors. Once established, toad lilies form reliable clumps that expand slowly each year, producing more stems and flowers with age. They rarely need dividing, and diseases seldom bother them. The plants are naturally deer-resistant, which is valuable in areas where deer pressure is high. In October gardens, toad lilies serve as conversation starters, guaranteed to make visitors stop and ask, "What is that?" Position them in shaded borders, along woodland edges, or near water features where moisture levels stay consistent. They pair beautifully with ferns, hostas, and other shade lovers, providing intricate floral detail that contrasts with simpler foliage textures. These plants prove that shade gardens can be just as interesting in fall as sunny borders. You just need to choose the right plants.
Plan number 8. Heuchera, Autumn Bride, Foliage Meets Flowers. Heuchera varieties have become garden staples for their colorful foliage, but Autumn Bride offers something extra, airy flower spikes that appear in late summer and continue well into October. The plant forms mounds of broad velvety green leaves that remain attractive late into the season, providing solid structure in shaded areas. But rising above this foliage, delicate white flowers on tall, thin stems create a cloud of softness that brightens darker garden spots. The flowers are individually small, but produced in such abundance that they create an airy, almost frothy effect. This lightness contrasts beautifully with the more substantial foliage below, giving you two types of interest from a single plant. The blooms soften the overall look of the garden and add subtle movement as they sway in breezes. Autumn Bride performs best in partial shade with moist, well-drained soil. It's naturally deer-resistant, making it valuable in areas where deer browsing is a constant challenge. The plant needs minimal maintenance. Just remove old flower stems after blooming finishes and tidy the foliage in early spring before new growth emerges. Mulching around the crown in fall helps protect it through harsh winters and prevents the frost heaving that can sometimes affect Heucheras in cold climates. Use this variety as ground cover in shade gardens, where you want texture and interest beyond simple green leaves. It works wonderfully along borders, filling middle ground space between taller back-of-border plants and shorter edging plants.
Pair Autumn Bride with brightly colored late bloomers like asters or with ornamental grasses for textural contrast. The combination of lasting foliage and October flowers makes it an invaluable perennial for keeping shaded areas looking intentional and designed rather than neglected.
Plant number 9, Chelone, commonly called turtlehead for its distinctively shaped blooms, keeps borders colorful well into October, when many other perennials have faded. The flowers do indeed resemble a turtle's head peeking from its shell, a unique shape that makes this plant instantly recognizable. Blooms appear in shades of pink to rose-purple on sturdy, upright stems in late summer and often continue through October, providing reliable color during the seasonal transition. Beyond the flowers, turtlehead offers attractive glossy green foliage on strong stems that remain presentable late into the season. The plants have a naturally neat clump-forming habit that looks tidy without requiring deadheading or constant maintenance. This structural quality makes them valuable even when not in bloom. Chelone thrives in moist, fertile soil and performs especially well in partial shade or areas with consistently damp ground. This makes it perfect for challenging spots like stream edges, rain gardens, or naturally wet areas where many perennials would struggle. The plants actually prefer more moisture than most garden perennials, so they're ideal for those problematic soggy spots. These plants are naturally deer-resistant and require very little care once established. They return reliably year after year, gradually forming larger clumps that produce more flower stems with age. Division is rarely necessary unless you want to propagate more plants or reduce clump size. In October gardens, turtlehead's upright form brings both structure and color to shady beds. The upright habit contrasts nicely with mounding plants and adds important height variation to borders. Position them in moist borders, alongside water features, or in rain gardens where they'll receive the consistent moisture they prefer. They ensure that even challenging damp sites remain colorful and interesting as colder weather approaches.
Plant number 10, Colchicum, Autumn Crocus Surprise. Colchicum, commonly called autumn crocus, creates one of the most magical moments in October gardens. These perennials produce starry flowers in shades of lilac pink that emerge directly from bare ground in September and October, long after the plant's foliage has completely disappeared. The sudden appearance of color where there was nothing before creates an almost unbelievable effect, like flowers materializing from nowhere. The blooms appear in clusters that can create carpet-like displays of color in lawns, under trees, or in borders. This is one of those plants that makes visitors stop and wonder how flowers are blooming from seemingly bare earth. The effect is particularly striking in naturalized lawn areas where the flowers pop up through grass like colorful surprises. Colchicum prefers well-drained soil in sun or partial shade. Plant the corms, bulb-like structures, in late summer, positioning them about 10 centimeters deep. By October, you'll be rewarded with that striking flush of blooms. The plants require very little care once established and naturalize easily, meaning they'll spread gradually and return in larger numbers each year. One thing to understand about Colchicum is its growth cycle. The foliage emerges in spring, large, coarse leaves that die back by early summer. Then the plant goes completely dormant through summer, with no visible presence above ground. In autumn, the flowers emerge without any foliage present. This cycle means you should plant Colchicum where other plants will disguise the somewhat messy spring foliage, and where the autumn flowers will have maximum impact emerging from lawn or ground covers. In October gardens, autumn crocus provides one of the season's most delightful surprises. The unexpected blooms brighten empty spots in beds and lawns, carrying garden beauty right into colder months.
Plant number 11, Hosta Sum and Substance, the Golden Giant. Closing our list is Hosta Sum and Substance, a foliage perennial that brings something different to October. Massive leaves and glowing golden chartreuse that hold up remarkably well late into the season. While most hostas are valued for shade, this variety actually tolerates more sun than typical hostas, which brings out the brightest gold coloring in its enormous leaves.
The foliage is thick, heavily textured, and slug-resistant, a rare and valuable combination. Each leaf can grow as large as a dinner plate, creating bold architectural presence in the garden. In October, when many perennials have collapsed or turned brown, Sum & Substance maintains its structural integrity and bright coloring, providing reliable visual weight in beds and borders. This hosta thrives in partial shade to morning sun with afternoon shade. It appreciates moist, rich soil that drains well. Once established, it's more drought-tolerant than most hostas, though it looks best with consistent moisture. The thick leaves are naturally resistant to slug damage, which is a huge advantage over thin-leafed hosta varieties that become lace by late summer. Use Sum & Substance as a bold focal point in mixed beds, where its size and color command attention. It works beautifully alongside dark-leaved Heucheras, fine-textured ferns, or near water features, where its chartreuse color creates striking reflections. The plant needs space to reach its full potential. Mature clumps can spread 1.5 meters across, so give it room to shine. In October, this hosta provides bright color and substantial structure that carries gardens toward winter with style. It demonstrates that you don't always need flowers to create impact. Sometimes exceptional foliage is even more valuable.
There you have it, 11 cold hardy perennials that transform October from the end of your gardening season into one of its most rewarding chapters. Between late blooms, evergreen foliage, dramatic color changes, and structural presence, these plants prove that autumn gardens can be just as beautiful as spring and summer displays, just different. The key is choosing plants adapted to cooler weather, plants that actually thrive as temperatures drop rather than merely survive. These are perennials you can count on year after year, getting stronger and more impressive with age while requiring minimal maintenance. That's the kind of gardening wisdom that makes life easier and gardens better. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Which of these plants are you most excited to try in your own October garden? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you found this information valuable, please share this video with other gardeners who might benefit from it. Gardening knowledge is best when it's shared. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Here at Seniors Gardening Advice, we share practical growing tips every week that actually work in real gardens. No complicated techniques or unrealistic expectations, just honest advice from someone who loves plants and wants your garden to succeed. Thanks for spending this time with me. Get out there, plant some of these October champions, and watch your autumn garden come alive. I'm Sam, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy gardening!